leaves 4 topics for us tonight, which is corporate DIE won't die, Episcopal evil, white truth, and Trump win. Corporate DIE won't die would be a good segue since 3 of 12 brought it up. Do you want to nominate 3 of 12, Fat Dave, and let him continue on with that one?
100%.
All right, let's go for it with the Green Dragon then.
All right. Let me pull this up here. All right. We move over now to this article. DIE is emerging triumphant in shareholder battles across America, from Coca-Cola to Berkshire Hathaway. Now, this article goes on, so we're not going to read it all because it's crap. It talks about how Donald Trump and MAGA and quote-unquote far-right people have been pushing against the DIE, but corporations are not hearing it. It posts multiple shareholder meetings from this year, and only between 1% and 2% of proposals to get rid of DIE policies were supported. So usually in the 97 to 99% range for all of these companies. 1.1% voted to get rid of it. And then here, 98% of the shareholders agreed they should keep. And then here you've got less than 1% want to stop the DIE. And it goes on and on and on. And it covers Costco, Apple. Now, to Costco's credit, 2% of their board wants rid of DIE. That was the highest number I saw out of all of these. So good on Costco, I guess. But Apple's the same, Deere & Co's the same, Levi Jeans the same, Goldman Sachs banking, big surprise. Coca-Cola, we know, Berkshire Hathaway. So a bunch of big, powerful companies. The people who actually control it via money are hardcore in support of DIE. Now, that's what the dragon is about tonight. So let's go ahead and leave the article and go to the dragon, which is the green, which is this big badass right here. The green with us tonight, unlike many greens, enjoys the complexities of advanced civilization. He views dense urban areas as a new kind of biome to study because, after all, they are products of natural creatures. He chose this story tonight to ask us this. Mr. 3 of 12, it comes to you first. Do you think there is a positive natural reason why leaders might want DIE? Or do you think all of it stems from guilt, greed, and malice?
All of it's from guilt, greed, and malice. There's not even a positive reason for it, because basically what this stems from, it's a bunch of different policy checkboxes for corporations to engage in that are all social good. The thing is, none of them are always like good for anyone.
Yeah.
The only argument I can make for the positive side of this is that naive boomers basically getting talked into using sweet honey words in order to support this stuff. Because there's the environmental part of it, which some people who are not well informed on that stuff might just blindly agree with it. But most of it is pretty bad. Most of it's pretty malicious. Most of it is about tearing down whiteness, and it leads to implementing classes for their workers to either denounce their own whiteness, or recognizing that whiteness is bad, or recognizing they have privilege. And it all violates the Civil Rights Act. It's all blatantly illegal. And it's forced through shareholder takeovers, where BlackRock just buys them all up, puts them in an ETF basket, and then boomers buy them like bit by bit. But really, by buying it, they give away their right to vote in shareholder meetings. So they don't even really own the stock. It goes hand in hand with companies going public. They go public, BlackRock buys them, and then they turn to shit. Just why, like, it's over. That whole idea of like putting an IPO public is just whole idea is just dead. You shouldn't ever go public. There's even a few companies that have moved back to being private over this because they've finally seen the. I mean, you see it. It's 99%. 99% will vote against this stuff. Woke is not being put away. Even when it does slink away, it's just being renamed.
Yeah,
And-
renamed or rebranded, but policies and all the people embedded in HR and hiring and staffing and shit are still there.
Yeah, and we've seen that boycotting works. If you truly boycott the brand, if you just truly don't buy anything that they sell, you can tear them apart. I mean,
I don't think so. I disagree with that. I don't think voting with your wallet works anymore. Not with central banking and how there's a
I
death
heavily
block on.
disagree because it worked well with Budweiser.
Anheuser-Busch had a short-lived hit, and they are still just as profitable as they were. Just because a single brand of the big company took a publicity hit, it did not affect the company being a rich powerhouse, and it's still in the same seat it was.
That's because they sold off all of their other brands. In fact, they're not even sponsored at Nats Park anymore. It's much deeper than you might initially assume. Yeah, yes. When Jason Kuna is completely correct. They have so 100%. Much money that they have so much money that it doesn't mean anything anymore. They dump huge amounts into this because it represents...
Jason's been saying that for a lot longer than even I have. Like years ago, before I even knew Jason, I was already questioning, what if these companies prioritize something more than profit? What could it be?
Yeah, I've only been saying it for about a decade, which is probably not very long compared to you guys.
No, it's about when I started getting into all this too, about 10 years ago.
Yeah, because the money is one thing, but if they can spend it to create a more permanent form of control through, cultural and political control by basically taking over the culture of everything, then yeah, they can just win. They can get contracts from the government, and they can be put into like special statuses and get special tax breaks and basically become untouchable. And then the red tape, the regulation gets increased, and the only people that can survive it are these mega corporations. That's why we're living in such an overregulated country now, and why they're so scared of deregulation. It's not because it'll save people money. It's not because it'll put money back in people's wallets. They're not even that afraid of that, because to them the money is not very much. I mean, it's not. It just isn't. It's a minor reprieve to eternal inflation. They're more concerned about losing control of permanent market share enforced by the state.
Good answers. Who wants to go next?
I'll go. So let me see if I've got this correct, right? There's a group of wealthy industrialists who have access not only to the Fed's fiat money printing machine, but also
they're also internationalists too. Don't forget that.
Yeah, but also via BlackRock and its Aladdin system, the ability to trade vast amounts of US Treasury, giving them essentially access to infinite money. And for some reason, they are pursuing a socially transformative agenda that is actually losing them money for some kind of what appears to be anti-white reason. And there's nothing that seems to link these people, no ethnicity or religion or any way of okay.
I've heard they've had long noses.
Yeah, right. Like, look, it's clearly just anti-white bullshit and a socially transformative agenda. I mean, I think this is essentially another way of getting to quote unquote communism, which is really just basically a highly stratified society with these particular people in unassailable positions of power, where they own all of the assets and everybody else basically has to scrabble for crumbs. And they're using one part of the population to batter the other part of the population and take over in the meantime. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it stems from guilt, definitely greed and definitely malice. It's not about the money. Right, like there are more important things than money. Like once you've got access to the infinite money cheat, there become other considerations. You can pursue socially transformative goals, and this is all about socially transformative goals. All of these companies that you mentioned have a high proportion of a certain ethnicity and are also part of interlocking ownership agreements that are linked to companies like Vanguard, for example. So Vanguard owns a bunch of BlackRock, which owns a bunch of State Street. And let's be clear, no one knows who owns Vanguard, right? And just the name by itself, right? If you know anything about, communism generally, right? The name Vanguard is highly suspicious. So no one knows who owns Vanguard. So yeah, it's basically, I guess, communism through fascism. Again, these are just labels. Like at
What
the
do you
end of
mean
the
you
day,
don't know who owns Vanguard?
Yeah, BlackRock.
Enough! I will hear no more of this Hebrew nonsense.
well, yes, but the actual owners are obscured when it comes to Vanguard, right? It's pretty obvious what group owns Vanguard, but as in the actual specific beneficiaries, it is occluded for some weird reason I can't quite work out.
Battered white meat.
Kizza, do you have anything on this one?
Well, quite frankly, of course it's not being put away because they've already invested too much capital and personality into it. So of course it's not going to go away. And quite frankly, I have an alternative solution to this problem. But quite frankly, it's going to really irk the Americans in this audience. But I don't give a fuck because you need solutions, not ideals. And quite frankly, what Donald Trump should do is abuse executive orders like the plague and find the living shit out of these companies to the point that they'll drop it or go bust. In which case, he could just swoop in like the wealthy, big business capitalist that he is, and just take it as his own property.
I've actually heard some talk that there might be something like that coming down the pike. That might actually be coming. So
governments have done this before. Governments have done this before with antitrust laws. Correct. In the past, okay. And also, what makes me laugh is all these shareholder companies. Literally, the reason they have so much power is because post the new deals, thanks to FDR, these companies were created after these deals to effectively take control of all the pension stuff that was created from the new deals, so that people in America and especially the rest of the world will have pensions basically living off the stock market. But what's really most ironic is with all these companies coming PLCs, what most people don't know is the world's first PLC was the East India Company, and the reason the British government created this was purely so they could get capital investment without increasing taxes on the public. Not even kidding you, ladies and gentlemen. That's the reason for it. So you could blame the British Empire for this cancer was, which I'll fully endorse as the proud English monarchist right here. But I digress. And quite frankly, the best, as we all know, DEI traces back to Marxism. And what do we know about Marxism, ladies and gentlemen? They are anti-capitalist and anti-private property rights. So I would dare argue, just impose Marxism against them and make them all homeless in their birthday suits. And Donald Trump, as your current president, swoop in, take full control of the company, make it his own, and do that to BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street, and every other company that promotes DEI.
You can't bankrupt these multi-billionaires and take everything from them. Like the central banking cartel won't let a president do that.
Yes, you can.
They're not even actually American companies. Like American companies.
Like a lot of these shareholders, they're not even American, man. Like you can't. You can't do that.
Who cares? The headquarters are based in the United States, so therefore, technically speaking, Donald Trump could technically do that as the commander in chief of the United States, and he has full backing of the entire U.S. military.
It doesn't work like that.
I assume you're being facetious
not even a little bit.
I assume you're being facetious about Penniless and their birthday suits. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't mean I didn't take you literally. I took you seriously. Yeah. And I don't think that a sitting president, even if the entire government was behind him, could bankrupt BlackRock and Vanguard. I just don't think he could do it.
No.
Yeah, I think the best thing that you could do was essentially find individuals of some sort of crime and then like, have them forfeit assets on a state level, most likely. Yeah. Some the state of Florida basically took land away from the CCP.
Yeah, like it's feasible. Yeah, like we can have victories like that, but
you got to know what you're doing.
Yeah, I don't think that even if the entirety of the government was behind doing Turbo America crazy shit with Trump, I don't see in a couple of years a single president and a government being able to like bankrupt and break apart BlackRock and Vanguard. Like they're so embedded. They're embedded over the entire world and own like what $4 trillion worth of capital and real estate. Like you can't make these people broke. You just can't do it.
And
Yeah, I
they're
mean-
part of
I mean,
every military on the planet as well.
I
And
mean,
Donald Trump isn't really radical enough. He's not going in that direction either because he's kind of chipping at the edges right now, sort of untangling the web so that bigger things can be done. The consequences of such major economic upheaval could be extraordinary.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the thing, though, guys. We have examples of this in history before, and people seem to forget Standard Oil, which literally had a monopoly when it came to oil and practically held effectively could hold the entirety of the United States to ransom, was broken apart by the government. And just remember, if you're commander in chief, technically speaking, you could technically, with the power of the military, do what the F you like. And no one
Now,
can
if we're talking about
That was a long time
clandestine
ago.
military strikes on rich families around the world, I mean, yeah, but we're talking like, fiction shit at this point. Like, that's not going to happen, especially during the next couple of years of Trump presidency. Now, I will be happy to eat my hat over that if that shit does happen, but I just don't.
No,
expect that to happen.
again, I'm not saying Donald Trump is going to do this, but I'm just saying if you really want to destroy woke, you have three simple options, and all of them are not nice. And quite frankly, I think the bankrupting option is the most poetic, given the fact these people quote unquote despise capitalism, private property rights. And also, let's be frank here: if Donald Trump is this so-called narcissistic uber billionaire capitalist individual, why wouldn't he want to bankrupt all these people, then take full control of all these companies, and then make himself officially the world's first trillionaire and effectively own the entire planet?
We'll
Part of the
see.
problem with that is that they are kind of not bankruptable because they're being bankrolled by
Like I said,
BlackRock,
the
which has,
central banking cartel. It's directly connected to these things.
as Newsfist explained, they essentially have access to infinite money because they have access to institutions that print our money. They just steal it essentially.
Yeah.
Yes, but just remember, you only have access to infinite money providing the printer is working, providing the printer exists. As soon as you destroy the printer, it no longer exists.
The absolute minimum to even attempt some of this stuff would require to get rid of the Federal Reserve.
Oh,
Yeah.
I agree. Oh, I fully
But
agree.
I don't see that happening at all under Trump. Maybe not even in my lifetime. We'll see. We'll see.
Oh, I mean, technically speaking, the Federal Reserve was only created after the third attempt. Just remember that, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Yeah, but have you seen how many attempts there are in the EU for votes?
Yes, but again, I would dare say that's a classic example of republicanism preaching about the so-called the great.
Those are not republics.
Well, they are because the head of state of the EU is a president.
We need to move
I
on,
digress.
gentlemen.
Yeah, sorry.
Let's move on. The only wrap up I have to any of that is I don't like calling what's going on Marxism or communism because we're long past that. I don't think, like, other than the ground level stooges that, like in universities and stupid politicians that may actually believe in those ideals, none of these powerful people we're talking about are communists or Marxists. They are a different kind of animal. They are a different breed that they see the world differently than any of those ideas would lead people to think they do. That's why I just like Jason's method of just call them anti-white shitbags, call them anti-white oligarchs, because these rich billionaires and these trillionaire organizations, they're not interested. They don't care about Marx. They don't care about Adolf Hitler. They don't care about Churchill. They don't care about any of that shit. They don't care about ideologies or what you call them because we're ants to them. They live in their mega super castle of central banking and all of that. And they don't give a fuck about any type of ideology or anything. They care about money, power, and control. And that's why I think they like DIE, because it benefits their model of international usury enslavement. That's why they like it. And that's why I don't think that they want to get rid of it, because it benefits them. And I think most of them fall into the greed category, but a few of them fall into the white guilt category. And a large percentage of them, I think, fall into the malice category, which are your, blatantly ideologically anti-white people. Anyway, all right.
Could I say something about this topic?
Oh yeah, go ahead. Sorry, did I skip you? I'm sorry. We got to.
Totally got
I'm
skipped.
sorry. We got to talking and we ran long in time. But yeah, please go ahead.
No, but really quick, I'll just say a lot of this DEI shit is not coming out of these companies until they start purging the HR departments, because that's really the core of where it comes from. It might be, there might be shareholder meetings and blah, 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 bullshit like that. But unless it gets proposed by the fucking HR department, no movement gets made on it. And so it's this fraternity of again Marxists that came out of our current like Marxist indoctrination friggin' university system. So until we start purging those
remember,
women from
a
HR,
lot of these mega rich people, they send their children to these lofty, super expensive, prestigious universities, and that's
Yep.
where they have their heads filled with all this cancer. And then
Yep.
those people go on to be in charge of companies and stuff. So you have,
Yep.
the HR lower level people that are indoctrinated one way, and then the same cancer from universities. That's why you get the top end children of power pushing this ESG score shit, because it's really just the same thing from the top end as all this DIE shit.
yeah, absolutely. But
All right.
what? That's all I got. Go ahead.
All right.